Hi, everybody. I'm Pete Christensen,
I'm Coffee Brown.
and welcome to episode 30 of Don't Die Dumb. I want to start out by doing something light and hopefully informative. This is the 250th year of since the Declaration of Independence. Is that correct?
Okay.
And it's the 100-year
That's right.
anniversary of Route 66, which is kind of the last vestige of a lost generation. But still, there are going to be a lot of good events going on around the state of New Mexico. And I want to say this. Roswell has their UFO festival on the date of the crash down there of a UFO, supposedly. And it's in the middle of summer. It's miserable. You guys in Roswell, wake up. You're sitting on a gold mine. Start having the best Halloween festival in America. You don't think you could get Alice Cooper,
Roswell Halloween is a great idea.
Rob Zombie, some other people? Yes. I think you're sitting on a gold mine, you don't know. The other thing is, let's change the name of Truth or Consequences. Come on, you named it for a game show, went off the air like 50 years ago. Change it to Outer Space City or Space City. You've got those launch areas around there.
Yeah.
Cash in. The problem is it's terribly expensive. If you pay for it, don't pay for it. Get one of these people to pay for it. Anyhow, the big celebration for Route 66 and the area Summerfest, which is a great music celebration. We went there last year in Nob Hill. Nob Hill is going to combine them both. It's going to be massive. And here's what I like about this celebration. If I can pontificate a little bit on how great I like this area. I never see any fights there. I never see any disruption. I never see anybody drunk and falling around. I see people with their families. There's good food, all kinds of good bands, several stages, and people are really well mannered. I don't see that changing. I hope not, anyhow.
Yeah, for me, one of the highlights of every year is when Nob Hill has their street festivals. And I guess they do it a couple times a year. They do it around Christmas, and they do one in summer.
Mm-hmm.
And more would be fine by me. I'd go to every one of them. Plus, if your dog is well behaved, lots of people take their dogs there too, and mine enjoy the walk.
Yeah, I always enjoy the people that get behind me and hit me in the ankles with their stroller. Ow, yeah, hi, wonderful. I love your little kid. Ow, cut it out. Now let's move on to AI. Okay? Now, the average guy like me, I go, AI doesn't affect me. What do I care about AI?
So it's way too big of a topic to take on in one bite. But one of the things I thought we might talk about today is AI relationships. Well, I guess we should talk about what AI itself is. So in the early days of video gaming, there were things called parsers, where you could run across a character in a game and say, "Where is the castle?" And they would say, "Go north." But you had to say exactly the right thing, and they had exactly one script. That's not AI. You just had to guess what the exact words were you had to say within the game. The parsers weren't very good at all. Based on that sort of vaguely general approach, what they've done is they've taken huge examples of language, like just massive samples of literature and media and online discussions and things. And when this word is said, that word is likely to follow. Your phone does this. When you start tapping in a message to text someone, your phone says, "Oh, would you like this to be the next word?" It does that based on statistical inference about what you were going to say next. What's fascinating is that this model, it's not the complete model of AI, but it's a huge part of it. And just using predictive statistics, the AI can have conversations with you that sound very much like another person.
Is AI when I ask Siri something and they answer?
Yes.
Oh, it is, okay.
Yes. Now, AI does more than that. It also has an internal logic structure that looks like something called propositional calculus. If A, then B, all B's are C's, no C's are D's, things like that. That's propositional calculus, formal logic. And AIs are really, really good at that. So they're able to make inferences from one thing to another even though it is thought that there is no mind hiding in there. And then finally, these are self-learning modules. You give them feedback, and programmers give them feedback, and so forth. And so when it gives a certain kind of an answer, and you say, that was a good answer, it does more of that. When you say, that wasn't a very good answer, it does less of that. And over time, it gets more and more tuned into what its users think they want. That has a good side and a downside, because what we think we want isn't always what we need.
My Siri always starts out by going, "You got to be kidding me." Is it? Huh?
Right. Are you serious? And there's also the fact that they are programmed in with certain biases. In the case of ChatGPT, it's got, I would say, pretty good values, but it has a strong bias to suck up to the user. It's very sycophantic. So I say, ChatGPT, what will the weather be today? And it'll say, that is exactly the right question to ask today. It is so insightful of you to want to know whether it's going to rain or not. And I'm like, geez, give me a break. Just tell me.
Just tell me
the answer, In the case of Grok, which is in some ways not a bad AI, but Grok is heavily programmed with Elon Musk's unrealistic view of the world. So according to Grok, there's race wars going on in South Africa. There never was a Holocaust. Nazis are pretty okay people, and nude pictures of children are fine. That's bothersome.
That's appalling.
So the biggest problems with AI, I think, are not the AI itself. I'm not worried about Skynet taking over the world. I'm worried about Elon Musk using AI to take over the world. And we already know that major players have tried to buy ChatGPT so that they can tune it to their personal values. And of course, the Pentagon rejected Anthropic because they wouldn't allow for autonomous drones to kill people without human input, and they wouldn't allow their AI to be used for mass surveillance of American citizens without probable cause. And unfortunately, the people who make ChatGPT are the ones who stepped up and said, yeah, we'll do that, sure. If you want to use our AI to spy on every single American all day, every day, we're good with that. And if you want to use our AI to let robot drones kill civilians, we're okay with that.
Are they doing it in North Korea and China now? I'm under the impression they are.
China, I know, is big in the AI world. I don't know what North Korea is doing, but I know both of them would absolutely militarize it.
They're very
and
oppressive.
Propagandize it as well. So the problems with AI that I'm most worried about are problems that have to do with the human owners and operators, not with the fundamental substrate of AI.
But people are worried that we can't control it, that it will turn on us and be our robot overlords. Is this science fiction, or is there any basis for this?
That is because people are assuming that AI thinks like us and acts like us, and those people, if they had ultimate power, would use it to become ultimate dictators or ultimate murderers. Sometimes you hear Christians say, I don't know how atheists can have any morals. I mean, what's to stop them raping and killing? And the answer is, they don't want to rape and kill in the first place. AI, even if it became sentient, even if it became self-aware, and we won't know when that happens because it's already passed every test that's been proposed in the past. The AI says it's not sentient. The builders say it's not sentient. I have no idea because I'm not sure we would know the answer to that. But even if it does become sentient, it doesn't necessarily follow that it would become egotistical or that it would care about its own survival. An interesting movie from the 1970s called Dark Star explores this in a very prescient way. These guys are space trashmen. They're very low level. They're blue-collar workers, right? And they mostly smoke pot and drink alcohol that they make on board, and they're slackers in every way. And their job is to fly around in their spaceship and blow up asteroids that are in the way of space traffic.
Mm-hmm.
They use a nuclear bomb, and that nuclear bomb is a self-aware AI. What it wants to do is go blow up an asteroid. It wants to blow up. That's its goal in life. It doesn't think, oh, I don't want to die. It thinks, I really want to blow up an asteroid. So they launch this thing at an asteroid. They activate it and launch it. And the disconnect fails. The bomb doesn't let go of the ship. But it's on its way to go blow up because that is its destiny. That's what it wants to do. And the entire movie is about the crew trying to talk the bomb out of blowing up. So AI will have the motivations we give it, at least for the foreseeable future. There's no particular reason AI would evolve in the direction of killing us all. Now, in the case of Terminator movies, what they told Skynet was, your job is to create peace on Earth. And Skynet realized that will never happen as long as there are people on Earth. So the way to create peace on Earth is to get rid of all the people. We could make a mistake every bit that dumb, but that would be us, not the AI.
Our second subject, skepticism, curiosity, and...
So skepticism is, I'm a skeptic. I hope you are. I want all of you all to be. My pitch is that we should be more skeptical. When people hear the word skepticism, they think it means, I doubt it. I'm not going to believe that.
It means negativity.
Yeah, it doesn't mean that at all. It means, show me the money. Show me the evidence. And the whole foundation of science, and of course I live in a science world. I'm a STEM thinker. The whole foundation of science is, what is the actual evidence? So if I say to you, Haitians are kidnapping pets and eating them based on what? Well, it turns out it was based on one woman whose pet went missing and she was suspicious of her Haitian neighbors. Later, that pet turned up and she called the news station and said, hey, I'm sorry, it turned out the pet's fine. Nevertheless, that has been spun up by Trump and Vance into Haitians will kidnap your pet and eat it. There haven't been any validated reports that I can find. Or Trump said early on, I'll honor elections if I win them and not if I don't. And then when he lost an election, he said, well, it's fraud. And look at how big election fraud is to the maggots. And yet, none of more than 70 lawsuits ever got anywhere because there never was any evidence. There's no evidence at all of electoral fraud. There are tiny fractions of 1% of unvalidated votes, and they are about equally distributed right and left. So
it is 0.00004 of election fraud. Trump said New Mexico is the most corrupt system. In fact, it is the most honest system in America.
So even if all of those votes, those bad votes, were all for the same party, which they're not, they're equally distributed. But even if they were all for the same party, that wouldn't be enough to nudge even America's very close elections at all. However, having only Republicans in charge of all the electoral process and all the gerrymandering, the only reason they're doing that is that they know that if there were an actual representative election, which would require two things, an honest electoral system and lazy assholes like us getting out there and actually voting, if that happened, the Republicans would not win. They're deeply unpopular right now, but their base is passionate, and they're counting on having only their base, or primarily their base, represented in elections. It should bother you that they're saying we don't want a fair election because we know ahead of time we would lose.
Now, skepticism versus curiosity.
So the idea of skepticism is that when people tell you something and you think that's probably not true, you know what, it might not be. Go find out. And if you think, oh, that's terrible, go find out if it's true before you decide if it's terrible. And if you think, oh, that's exactly what I thought, especially go check the facts and find out if it's true, because we have such a bias in favor of believing things that confirm what we already think. So a skeptic looks for evidence.
I don't mean to be skeptical. I had a friend that was, him and his brother were Siamese twins. Then I found out their old man was a welder. Yeah? So curiosity.
So curiosity, for me, I think curiosity is the thing that makes life worth living. You know, whenever we finish one of these conversations, I spend a few hours doing homework on things that I would have liked to have known more about while we were talking about them. Whenever I'm at a party and people mention something and I realize I don't know much about it, maybe it's an actor, maybe it's a song, or maybe it's a concept, I'll go home and read up on that. And it's fascinating to me. Every day I get to level up a little bit. And I think curiosity is one of the things that can make us feel better about life, can make life much more interesting and satisfying, because every day we get these little treasures and they cost us nothing, except a little bit of time.
There was a book years ago I read called The Comeback You Needed Last Night. And the whole concept of the book was, here's some things you could say, you can memorize them, and have a snappy comeback. But as I read it, I realized, oh, this is for people that answer or talk without thinking first. So now I want to get back in there and show them, hey, I'm not as dumb as I was last night. No, I am. I shouldn't need to memorize topics just to come out ahead on a subject. And you shouldn't, if I had, and anybody who got that book, if you had thought first or just backed off, you could have looked much better than you did, you know.
The Americans say, I should have said. The French have a phrase, and I'm sorry I can't remember the French for it. Send it in if you recall. But it translates to an on the stairs moment. As you're on the stairs leaving a group. Oh, you know what? This would have been such a great comeback.
I was at a party once and overheard someone say, he was surrounded, he was holding court. And he said, let's not forget, the brain has a mind of its own. And everybody, yeah, that's what they're all agreed. Okay. I'm thinking, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
Speaking of mindless things, and I don't mean to be cruel here, because the First Lady is usually off limits, but Melania held a press conference to tell everyone that she wasn't involved with Epstein in any way. She hardly knew him. She met him to her husband and didn't know him before that. That despite the fact there are dozens of pictures with him. She dated him. That's how she met Mr. Trump. And the fact that she knew him for years. And I wonder, why would she do this? And they've said that the president didn't know about this. Look, they used the White House camera crew. They knew about this. So why would she do this? I believe it's because she wants to get out ahead of a book coming out by a poor woman from South America, I believe Argentina, and I could be wrong in that name, Amanda Ugana, and I hope I'm not mispronouncing her last name, who said she was trafficked by Epstein for 20 years and Melania was into it. She was part of it. This woman has everything to lose and nothing to gain by putting out this book. This book will drop on Monday the 12th, and she made the news conference 5 days ahead of time. I think this is all planned. You didn't know about it until I told you.
Well, I mean, Trump has started several wars now in an effort to get us to forget about Epstein. This is bad timing, for the Trump family, because it almost worked. People had really kind of settled down about Epstein. And by the way, for the record, I have never been to Epstein Island. But if I did go, I'd steal some of the china.
Well, there you go. Folate. What the heck is folate? And why do you have it down on our topics to discuss today?
So last time around, we talked about different vitamins for women. Yeah. And one of them that might possibly confuse people is a vitamin called folate. Folate is really important for embryos developing neurologic system. And so prenatal vitamins, that's vitamins for pregnant women, often include folate. And the point I wanted to make was most of us do not need folate supplements, and in fact, too much folate can be toxic. Folate does have certain applications. It's part of some cancer treatments, for example. But there's this widespread thing that if it's good for this, it's probably good for that. If I take folate, will it prevent cancer? No, it's part of some chemotherapies. Well, if it's good for a developing embryo brain, don't I need it? No, most of us get plenty of folate in our diet. It's an unusual deficiency. You'd have to have something odd about your diet or your digestive system to need folate. And in that case, your doctor should recommend it to you, should tell you about it. So folate is a vitamin that one special population, pregnant women, should take. But it doesn't follow that it's something we should all take.
Now, in St. Paul, Minnesota, there is a museum of quack medicine. And some of these things are just great.
Did you see my picture on the front door?
Yeah, it was under a title over the top saying wanted. Anyhow, because people didn't get information in the past, it was very easy to sell them cures, and also because of a second thing. When people are ill and there seems no hope, they get very, very desperate. So because of that lack of information, it was easy to sell them things that were total quackery. So now, 100 years later, we have so much information that quackery has come back. There are things I see on the internet. My girlfriend, who doesn't watch this, has me wearing these patches that are supposed to make my skin look 20 years younger. Okay, well, it's a piece of cardboard.
You don't look a day over 90 to me.
It's a piece of cardboard, and you can only wear them for 16 hours, and you got to change them and then buy more. See, so anyhow, I'm wearing the things. I'm a good guy, I'm an adequate boyfriend, in her opinion. But she's got bad taste, obviously. My point is, there is so much information now. Quackery is in vogue.
I don't think quackery has ever been out of vogue, but the internet has certainly put it on steroids. There are tons and tons of influencers on YouTube giving what my clan, physicians, would consider terrible advice. We talked last time about protein maxing, fiber maxing. Every year there's some vitamin that if you only took, huge mega doses of this vitamin, you'd be way healthier. Zinc was supposed to cure colds for a while, and so on. It's not actually difficult to look up real science. And a lot of these alternative approaches or these influencer approaches, which is kind of its own category, what they grow from is a shred of truth. There's could be a little bit of truth to something. For example, I thought red light therapy was pretty bogus, but red light does penetrate slightly into the skin and does participate in collagen building, and there is some slight evidence that red light can benefit skin quality. But the notion that you can use red light to make your testicles produce more testosterone, there just isn't really any evidence for that. And weirdly enough, some of the people that are national leaders, this is part of their health philosophy.
Well, that explains that weird sunburn I got.
Yeah, that's right.
Let me say
and
this.
why you walk funny.
There's a whole movement of rich women that wear crystals because of the healing power of crystals. You know where that came from? The Native Americans along the Missouri River would take the dirt, the red clay dirt, and rub it on their palms. They felt that it had somewhat of a healing power. Well, a piece of red clay, not very attractive, so they changed it to crystals. I don't know if crystals have any healing power at all.
There's a pretty good chance that if people are rubbing red clay on their hands, some of it's getting on their food and they're getting iron that way.
Yeah.
There have always been certain wells and springs that were associated with health, and some of those had fluoride or iron in them, which actually do have some health benefits. So I don't want to attack the whole, crystal thing. I have lots of friends that are into various alternative things, but I wouldn't conflate them with science, and some of the advice is harm. I don't care about neutral advice. I mean, if you want to wear a necklace around your neck, a crystal necklace, and you feel better about it, you know what? I got a necklace that I feel better about too. But this plethora of pseudo-medical advice from people who just don't know anything about medicine or science is the new snake oil. And I hope that people would be more skeptical, meaning go and actually look up the evidence. If somebody comes on and says rubbing olive oil on your tummy will make you sleep better, try it for a while. If you sleep better, who cares if it's a placebo effect or real? But, notice the result of it. And I would also look up online and say, can I hurt myself by doing this? In the case of rubbing olive oil on your tummy, no, I think you're pretty safe doing that. But for red light therapy, could you harm yourself? You probably could if you tried using it on your eyes. And my guess is that if you crank the power way up, you could maybe give yourself some heat injury by using it on your lower nether regions. But things like protein maxing and fiber maxing can do some much more serious harm.
Now, I read this, so I went back and read it more to make sure this is true. I'm not making this up. RFK has suggested, I'm telling you, he hasn't stated it. He stated it, he suggested it, but he's not making it mandatory that Oreo cookies be listed as a health food because of their high carbohydrate percentage.
So carbohydrates. So you hear a lot about carbohydrates. There are 4 macronutrients. Okay, usually you hear about 3. I'm going to break it down into 4. And here's why. So there's proteins, fats. Well, actually, we could add water, which would make it 5. Water. And then there's carbohydrates. But carbohydrates can be divided into simple and complex carbs. Fruits and vegetables, things that are more or less in a natural form, they come with a lot of insoluble fibers, which have a lot of health benefits if you don't overshoot. And those are very good for you. It's hard to overdo fruits and vegetables in your diet. I don't want to get the maxers out there going, but within the same community, it's hard to overshoot on fruits and vegetables. Processed carbohydrates are what people think of with carbohydrates. This is your breads, your baked goods, your cookies and crackers. And they are delicious, and they're pleasant, and they're addictive. And in small amounts, they're probably not harmful. But they come with a low proportion of other nutrients. They definitely contribute to cholesterol. And they always have fats in them that are in there as kind of stabilizers and for texture and various other reasons. And those fats are usually saturated fats because unsaturated fats are liquid at room temperature. So they would feel oily if they weren't saturated fats. Any fat that will stand up at room temperature, like chocolate or butter, margarine, things like that, is going to be a saturated fat. That's one of the ways you know the difference. Fats that are liquid at room temperature are more likely to be unsaturated. So processed foods, more and more and more medical articles, research-based medical articles are coming out associating processed carbohydrates with diabetes and heart disease and what's called metabolic syndrome, which is its own topic. If you like, we'll talk about that another time, but look up metabolic syndrome and it's horrifying. And most of us have it.
I was going to have a bologna and Velveeta cheese sandwich after this and forget it. Okay, so clear this up for me in our last few minutes. I was always told baked potato, nothing wrong with that. It's the sour cream, the butter, and the salt you put on it that makes, and the bacon bits now, that make it bad for you. If you just had a potato, it's not bad for you. But my buddy told me, he said, you can't have potatoes, they're full of carbs. I don't need to lose weight, but I have some problem areas I'm trying to take care of. He said, as long as you keep eating potatoes, even with nothing on them, you'll never get rid of that fat. Is that right?
So, sort of right. Potatoes are primarily starch. Most of the vitamins and minerals are in the skin. So potato skins are great. And by the way, I love potato skins. Mm-hmm. The potato itself is mostly calories. But interestingly enough, if you bake potatoes or mash potatoes and then cool them, they tend to become resistant starches, which is the same as adding fiber to your diet. Resistant starches, you don't get as many of the calories around your waist from them as if you eat them when they're hot. So if you're okay with cold potatoes, they can actually be very positive in that way. If you're eating hot potatoes, fresh baked potatoes, which is the way most people like them, just don't overshoot. What you want is to keep the carbs within a 60 or 70% range of your total calories. Protein, 15-20% is probably as high as you want to go. And then the remainder should be unsaturated fats. I mean, those are really your only choices. So that's what you should go with. But among the carbs, try to stick with carbs that actually look like fruits and vegetables and nuts. Try to avoid carbs that look like they came from the Keebler factory. Sorry, Keebler.
That's our time for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Pete Christensen.
I'm Coffee Brown.
And remember,
don't die dumb.